Hey fellas, what's going on? It's me back again with another Ogron October video. You know what it is. We're talking about Darkest Dungeon. Today, as you can clearly see, I thought I'd make a tier list of what I consider to be the best and worst Darkest Dungeon bosses. So let's go. As you can clearly see, I have already put the Shambler in the very bottom. This is because the Shambler is extremely unfair to fight, and if you mess up even once, or even one thing goes wrong, there's almost no way that you can pull it back. However, I will put the additional caveat that it is entirely your own fault, because you deliberately held that torch up to the Shambler altar. The way that the curio even works is such that characters that have curiosities that will make them interact with curios against your will not activate the Shambler fight. You deliberately killed that party, dude. So don't even start with me. Anyway, next up, we have the Collector. I think Collector's gonna go in an easy C tier because, you know, he's not too difficult if you use stun to effectively, if you have enough backline damage, if you get a bunch of bleed and blight on him. He's really only super dangerous when his mooks start buffing each other and then like doing 30 damage a pop on your healer. That's really the worst aspect of that. And now we have the poor man himself, the Necromancer. I think we're going to have to give him a solid D. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this fight mechanically, it's just, he's so easy. Like, if you just keep killing his minions and healing regularly, then the only thing you ever have to worry about is the stress damage that he might do. He gets one turn, and he is basically so reliant on the enemies that he summons that he's just incapable of taking on anybody by himself. The only real danger you're going to encounter is if like a couple of characters in your party are at death's door, because if they're at death's door, then he has a chance to target like multiple people in the front or back line, and that's where it gets kind of dangerous. Alright, next up we have the Flesh. Now, I'm going to put the Flesh in A, because I actually really like fighting the Flesh. See, I like the idea that it is a little bit of random chance into what actual enemy you're going to get, whether you're going to get like a huge damage-inflicting bleed pig head, or a backline blight-inducing pig butt, or the one that heals, or the other one, the spine that stuns you. There's a little bit of luck involved with that, but it's extremely countered by the fact that it has one big shared health bar, and the bleed and blight doesn't stack on all four heads, so you can rack up like 30 bleed and blight across all the heads simultaneously, doing like 120 damage to it in one turn. So it's a pretty fair boss fight. It's pretty balanced. You know, you'll have some highs, you'll have some lows. Keep your healing and damage up. Get that bleed and blight on there. Bring jesters and plague doctors, and you'll have a groovy old time. Next up, we have the 3 Darkest Dungeon mini-bosses. I don't really know why these are on the list, since they're not really bosses, but, you know, we'll do them anyway. First, we have the Mammoth Cyst. The Mammoth Cyst gets E purely on the virtue of the fact that it's a gigantic beef gate that isn't even that tough normally, that is guarding a white cell stalk that may at any moment transport you to some random place in the other side of the map. That's the only problem I have with it. Otherwise, it's a solid little mini-boss, and you have to fight at least, like, I think 2 of them to get to the Locust Beacon. So, you know, whatever. And I think in the same category, we're going to put the 2 Templars, because these guys, oh boy, they do a lot of damage from what I can remember. It's been a while since I've been to the Darkest Dungeon. They do maybe a little too much damage, maybe just like a smidge too much, you know. Other than that, I don't see anything really that wrong with them. They're powerful enemies in a powerful dungeon. But, you know, the Revelation attack is kind of like hit or miss, because, like, you only get 3, so you have a chance that you might get attacked by it. It's a hard dungeon. I can't really blame it. I just don't really consider these to be bosses. So they're more like extremely dangerous encounters, so I don't know why they're on this list. Next up, We have the Countess. Yeah, we're gonna put her in You Fucking Stupid Whore, You Killed Whips McGee, you bitch. Because that is where she belongs. She is worse than the Shambler. I fucking hate her. Don't even need to elaborate, baby. Next up, we have the Garden Guardian. I'm gonna put him in B, because you're gonna have to grind against him a lot if you want to get all of the Crimson Court items, and he's you know he has his challenges. Just don't break the shield. Just break the spear. Bring like a mark party. You'll do plenty of damage. Bring some tanks. Bring plenty of bandages. You'll be fine. All right, and next we have the Hag. The Hag is an interesting case. I'm gonna put her in C, because she's actually not that tough. She's super reliant on her gimmick. All of her normal attacks don't do nearly as much damage as I remembered. Basically, her whole gimmick is that she can throw any one of your 4 characters into the pot, where they'll slowly take damage until they get to death's door, and then they'll be ejected onto the front line of your party. So really, if you bring a party that is resistant to shuffles and has a high enough speed to be able to heal them in time so that they don't have a chance at getting hurt, the Hag really can't do much to you. It's kind of surprising. I mean, it's still a pretty intense fight, because like there is always that chance that if you don't get them out of the pot before they land up on death's door, that the Hag might specifically target them and kill them. But that's a risk you're gonna encounter in like every one of these fights. All right, and next we have the Baron. I barely remember the Baron fight. I only did it once, because I only played Darkest Dungeon all the way through once. But I remember having a lot of fun. It was a pretty standard boss fight. He had some damaging attacks. I think he had some stuns and some, like, shuffles. But then there was, like, the main mechanic where, like, he had the shell game where you had to, like, guess which one it was, and if you guessed the wrong one, then it spawned a bunch of mosquitoes, which made the fight harder. So, I mean, it wasn't that annoying. I mean, it was pretty fun, I guess. All right, next up, we have the Pounder. I do not like the Pounder. The Pounder, in my opinion, is a missed opportunity for this game, because in every other instance of this game, you're going to be fighting, you know, these gigantic fucking monsters and eldritch abominations and horrifying humanoid abominations and all that. And then this boss is just a cannon. It's just a cannon. And it's not even an interesting boss fight at that. You just keep shooting the Fuseman over and over again, and hoping that your Arbalest or whoever you have on the back line doesn't miss ever, so that it can't shoot anything. It's just a huge damage sponge with a mechanic where if you don't kill a guy who has 8 health, then he does 35 damage to your entire party and kills you instantly. Why is this in the game? This feels like a Warsaw boss fight more than it does a Darkest Dungeon boss fight. I don't know, man. Alright, and next up we have the Drowned Crew. I really like the Drowned Crew. I love their whole aesthetic. I like the fact that they actually do a fair bit of damage and stress, but that the main mechanic is that they have a little anchor guy who will grab the frontmost person in your party and repeatedly heal the crew unless you kill him real quick. I think it adds a lot of tension to the fight, and I especially like the mechanic that if that frontliner has a virtue, then this fight becomes a lot easier as he will never be grabbed. It's awesome. And next we have the big man himself, the Heart of Darkness. How could I not put this up here? It's one of the greatest boss fights I think I've played in the last 10 years. It starts with you being confronted by the ancestor of all people, and having to go through him as he repeatedly mocks you for trying to come this far, and for sending legions after legions of adventurers to their deaths. And then, just as you think that you've won against him, it turns into this gestating heart, and you have to fight it, and then it kills 2 of your favorite party members, probably, because you probably brought, like, your best ever party on this last mission in the game, and it has to kill 2 of them, and the last 2 guys in the entire campaign might be Reynold and Dismas from the beginning? Come on. It's gotta be S tier, come on. Alright, and we have the Prophet. I'm sorry, man. I'm gonna have to put you down in D with the Necromancer. I've been fighting the Prophet a lot recently because he's an early game boss in a Stygian run, essentially. And I've noticed a problem that I have with the Prophet. The problem is, his whole mechanic is that he chooses one lane for whoever's standing in that lane to basically be one-shot. There's like a rare chance that you might dodge, or like it might not do that much damage, but like, come on. Basically, he chooses a space for them to be one-shot. Now, luckily, he does this at the beginning of every round, so you have the chance to heal up and get people off of death's door. But he also does blight damage, and he does a lot of stress damage. So he's basically his whole gimmick is, I'm gonna stand at the very far back of the room where only your long-range party members can hit me, and I'm gonna one-shot one of your guys every turn, and possibly put some blight on him, and if you don't heal him, or don't have the requisite speed to heal him, then you're basically taking death's door risks every single turn. It's really stressful, and I think not very fun. It's like, it's almost like gambling. I mean, there are ways to circumvent it, and yeah, but, you know. Now then, we have the Shuffling Horror. The Shuffling Horror is the objectively better version of the Shambler, because by sheer virtue of the fact that it doesn't spawn those stupid little growths that gain prot and attack every turn. Instead, it spawns a Dark Priest, which is still pretty bad, but it's not the end of the world. This is the Shambler fight done right. It doesn't surprise your party on the very first thing, no matter what. So you're still... So, like, if you brought a Mark party, you're not completely screwed, and it doesn't have those stupid growths. So there's basically nothing wrong with it. Oh boy. Next up, we have the Sleeper. I gotta put the Sleeper up there at the Heart of Darkness, man. They're the two big bads of the game. The Sleeper is such an interesting fight because, first of all, it starts off with this giant crystal, and you're thinking, what the hell's going on? I don't know anything about this. Ancestor didn't tell me anything. Because you've already killed the Miller, and you think that was the whole thing, but like the comic... But then it turns out that when you kill that crystal, that's when the real fight begins. And you'd better believe that you'd hope that most of your characters have virtues in an endless run, or your run's getting shut the hell down. Come on, it's awesome. It's awesome. Alright, and next we have the Viscount. The Viscount, I just remember him as, like, doing a bunch of damage and then healing himself unless you killed the sacks around him. This isn't super interesting to me. I mean, I think I killed both the Baron and him on my first try, but the Baron had a more unique mechanic that I liked. Whereas the Viscount was just, I swear I just remember him as being like, I'm gonna heal if you don't kill my sacks. Maybe I'm misremembering. I don't know. Alright, and next we have the Swine King. I love the Swine King, man. I love the fact that Wilbur determines which of your characters you need to be like careful about each turn. I like the fact that it actually circumvents the whole shoot the medic first deal that you usually get in these types of games. Where if you kill Wilbur, then you're in for a very, very bad time. I like the fact that if you manage to resist Mark or somehow otherwise circumvent it, then you can actually prevent yourself from taking a lot of damage. I like this fight. It's entirely fair. There's not a lot of status effects that get applied. Your real only danger is like Wilbur shouting at you when you're on death's door. I mean, you know, that's a meme within the community, but it's a great fight, man. Alright, and next we have the Thing from the Stars. I'm sorry, man. I think I'm gonna have to put you in the C tier, because, like, this is a fight that you can encounter pretty much anywhere, at any time. And it's... Well, okay, not anywhere at any time, but you know what I mean. But, like... And it's a damage sponge... as, like, a wandering boss monster. And I don't know how much I like that, because basically there's really no way to outright kill this boss without it killing itself. You just have to keep... You just have to keep your health and sanity low, or sanity high, or, well, stress low. You just have to keep your health up and your stress low through the whole fight, and you'll basically be alright. But, I mean, like... it doesn't really have any unique mechanics like the Collector or the Shambler or the Fanatic. It's just every turn it damages itself until it's dead, and it's not that interesting, and it usually results in at least one affliction for one of your heroes. I don't know, man. All right, the Crocodilian. You know him. You hate him. A for Apex Predator. Am I right? No, I'm just kidding. I think he's a valid B tier. He's more like a mini boss, so he's not that tough. I mean, I will grant it to you that like his ability to like damage and move people around is very annoying, and of course the legendary submerge Apex Predator thing, especially since he can sometimes target two people, is very, very dangerous. But it's a neat little fight. It has cool mechanics. There are definitely ways to circumvent it, just like lower his dodge with an occultist a whole bunch, mark him, and then blast him with like a musketeer and a bounty hunter, and he'll go down in a couple hits. And now we have the Fanatic. F tier for Fanatic. I hate this fucking guy. In principle, he's basically the same as the Hag. He has an ability. His whole gimmick is that he can like take any one of your party members and stuff them into something on his side of the battlefield, and then when they get out of it, they go on to the front line. So you have to rearrange them. The problem is he has 3 fucking actions, unlike the Hag, which has 2, and usually the attacks that follow aren't that damaging. And these 3 fucking actions will consistently do like fucking 35, 30, 40 damage, and he sometimes has AoE attacks that can do like 20 damage. He is unbelievably strong and powerful, and the worst part about this is that he can show up in any dungeon, so you can't circumvent his special gimmicks by bringing a party that is like shuffleable, because it's entirely random. It is entirely random. So you may have the like rock solidest mark party in the entire world, but if he surprises you and then grabs your man-at-arms that was going to buff the whole party and throws him in first, thereby putting the musketeer out of alignment, then all of a sudden you're just totally screwed. It is a fuck the Fanatic. I hate him. All right, and next up we have the Siren. The Siren, I feel like the Siren could be better, but it's still pretty fun. The Siren, I feel, the gimmick is pretty neat that she can actually take one of your party members and then force them to do her bidding, and it's like, oh no, if she takes your healer, then she might heal herself back up, and if she takes like your mainline damager, then you're gonna be in super big trouble. But like, she also summons enemies on top of that for no real reason. And she doesn't really have much to do outside of that. I think she like blows on her conch, which does some stress damage and stuff. But like, if they wanted to make it, I don't know, they could have done the same principle by like making you have some sort of like simulacra enemy that like replicates your party, but like, I don't know, gives them buffs or something. It would just be slightly more interesting to fight than like, I don't know, maybe I'm rambling here. Oh, dude, the Miller. Come on, the Miller is awesome. If you bring a certain trinket, he'll be objectively weaker. He has insane abilities that will constantly fuck you up if you're not careful. He can summon enemies, but he actually does something with those enemies. He turns them into like a shield wall, which I found mind-blowing when I first played this. Like, I was like, okay, so he's summoning mooks, nothing special. I'll just kill them if like I have the opportunity. But then he started breathing these crystals onto them, and they started doing like crazy stress damage, and I think healing him actually. And I got like super pissed because I was like, oh man, I need to figure out how to kill these guys before he can do that. Oh man, and his backstory is so sad, and it's and like you usually find Mildred like right after it. Oh man, come on. And next up we have the Shrieker. The Shrieker goes in D tier of not being a real boss. She's a mission that you go on to retrieve your trinkets, and if you can literally just outlast her if you want, or you can try to kill her for some extra rewards that aren't really worth trying to kill her. Basically, this is basically just a waste of time. Bring some lepers and some other damaged spongy guys and just wait for her to kill... Well, and then just wait for her to leave and you'll get your trinkets back. It's fine. Oh, man. Brigand Wolf. Come on, I gotta put him up here. The atmosphere that he gets his own fucking event. Where he's the most unique boss in the entire game, and he's not even like some sort of misshapen monstrosity. Okay, he's maybe not the most unique boss in the game. He is just like a human enemy, but like, this completely blindsided me when I first played the game. I had no idea that I was about to walk into like a fight with a human enemy. I thought brigands were just kind of like ways to flavor up the world and make it feel more human. But no, he actually gets pissed at you when you have legendary heroes, and I like the fanon that like when you blow up his cannons, he gets mad too. But you have to walk through your entire town being razed to get to him, and you have to fight super tough enemies, and it's so cool. And he has this cool mechanic that's like the Prophet, but I feel is a little more fair because he's not at the back line, and he also guards all of his enemies. He doesn't have like people guarding him, so you can always direct as much damage as you want onto him. Oh man, dude, it's so awesome. And yeah, that's basically it. There are some really good bosses in Darkest Dungeon, and then there is the Countess. Ogron October continues. See y'all next time.